Now you've had much success, which we'll come on to a little later on the Longines Global Champions Tour, with several wins in the Grand Prix. But to take you back to your early career, I was reading you actually trained as a mechanic. How did you get from being a mechanic to being one of the world's top riders?
It started in Sweden, of course. I come from Sweden, and we lived on a farm with my family, my father and my mother, and they were supporting. There were all those horses and so there, and they were farmers, and I wanted also to support them at home, so I could help them with the machines and so on. And then I worked as a mechanic for 6 years first,
right,
before I totally went over to the horse sport. Yeah.
So what was the turning point that took you from working under the bonnet to working in a saddle?
Of course, you want to do what you really like, and that was the horses. But in the beginning, of course, you could just not say, I only do what I like, and you have to start something and make a little bit of a living first before you can go out on your own feet. And that was a beginning for me. And then, of course, when I felt strong enough that I could live out of my hobby or my horses, then I made a little business out of that, and we started so.
And who were your big influences and mentors in the early stages of your career? What age were you when you took that on from Sweden?
As my family, my father special, he was the one who has the knowing about the horses, and they have a big influence. Of course, they wanted us, my sister and me, to also do with the horses. And I was about 20 years of age that time when I was working as a mechanic. I did that until I was 25, 26. And then I went over totally to the horse.
So, I mean, we see riders at the top level now in their mid to late 20s. So by that point, you were still actually doing another career before you even came into this.
Yeah, as I came out in the real international sport quite late. I moved down to Holland when I was 35. And before that, I was doing a bit of international shows and did a European. I did a World Championship in Atlanta at the Olympics. And then I moved down to Holland and to Jan Tops and started working there, and did 5.5 years with him, which was a good time. And I came out in the big international sport. Since that, it's only been growing.
And you yourself now, we talked about the Olympic Games there. I mean, you've had success at the Olympics in terms of individual silver in 2008. We've jumped forward a little there, but what was the road in those Olympic Games? You just talked about being there as a young man, and then later on in your career. What kind of achievement did you feel winning that individual silver?
Of course, that was a very big moment. To get the individual medal at the Olympics, that's something what you can only dream about it, and it's very few who can actually have them. I was very lucky then. I have a fantastic horse in Silla and very good support in Alfonso Romo, and we have a great team, so I was really pleased with my placings there and could be second in Hong Kong.
Do you have a fitness regime you do outside of the horses or not?
Yes, in the moment I have quite much of it, because I did an injury in my leg, and I have to be really working to get back now. And this is here in Antwerp, and now is one of my first shows again. So I do a bit of exercises outside the horse riding also, and I think that's important for us also.
That was something I was going to come on to actually. You've been out for close to 3 months from that point of view, maybe a little bit shorter.
Yeah, a little bit
with
shorter.
a thigh injury.
Yeah. Yes, it's a long time to stay injured, and then you slowly come back again, and you need a little bit of time to get into the really big sport and the high classes again. Now I have some experienced horses that makes it, of course, easier, but it's better when you can continue and be in your game and in your sport.
Now, going back to the early part of your career, you talked about there coming from Sweden down to Holland with Jan and the people that have been involved through your career. How much of a big leap and how much did that make you nervous, making that leap from Sweden down into Central Europe? You're of course based in Germany now, and have been for some time.
It was a big decision to take that time when you leave your home ground and your farm and your everything what you actually build up in a couple of years and say I'm gonna try something else on a total new place in a new country where you're not so safe about the language and everything, new systems and rules and everything. Of course that was a big step, but where I'm sitting now, I'm really happy that I took the step and I went out from Sweden that time to look around in the world. And of course we are more in central of Europe here than up in Sweden, and it's a lot more happening, and the center of the sport is more here.
And obviously that was the best move, one of the best moves you ever made in terms of where your career has gone from then. And actually, we've talked about Olympic Games, but on a slightly different note, you were actually the Swedish flag bearer at the opening ceremony in London. How much pride and how much of it did that really create for you, being able to walk out as Sweden's main man at the last Olympic Games?
I was very proud when they called me and asked me if I was going to carry or if I wanted to carry the flag. They wanted so. And of course that's a big honor for yourself, and go there in front of your country into Olympics in opening ceremony.
And which makes you more nervous, riding in the ring or doing that?
Okay, there was another moment which you don't know, of course, but we have been through a few things, so keep focused and be proud of yourself that you are one of them that they are asking to carry the flag. I have been lucky. I have been having quite a few good horses during my career. Of course, Silla, he was a fantastic horse. He was my partner for 6 championships, where he did 4 last one of them with the worst placings of number 7, yeah, which I think it's very good. And then to finish off in a year of 16 years old, winning the European Championship in Madrid, that was, for me and for everybody around me in that team, and also I think for the horse, a very nice moment. And then, yeah, it just slowly slowed down the sport for him later on, and now he's back in the green, nice field in Mexico and having a very good time.
And deservedly so. Before that, the 2004 Olympic Games with McKinley, again, but a team silver this time, so still up there on the podium. How different was that to the individual silver?
That came first, and then of course that moment you were on the podium at the Olympics. Of course you really prefer to do it yourself individual, but to be there with your team, there was also a great moment. But then in Hong Kong, it was even better when you stand up there yourself, alone, as an individual.
You yourself, you've done 9 World Cup finals, 4 Olympic Games, 3 World Games, 6 European Championships, and have won the European Championship title. Of all of those titles, which is the one that really makes you smile when you think about it? Which is the top of the list?
There's a close race between Hong Kong to be second at the Olympics and to win the Europeans. To win and be number 1 is, of course, it's maybe even a little bit better.
What is the next generation of horses for you, and what do you see as the long-term plan?
We have, in our little stable, we have a few younger horses, coming up horses. We have a second rider who brings them out to shows, start up the beginning of the career for the younger horses. Some of them later on goes maybe over to me, continue there. I think it's a nice way also, and it's an interesting way to build young horses yourself.
I read about one of your quotes, which was, you talk about, I'm not sure how the translation goes, but not overusing your horses and do your homework is your big piece of advice. How much does that hold, and how much is that relevant, do you think? How much is that the piece of advice you'd still stay with?
I feel it so myself, yeah, and try to keep my horses as fit as possible, yes, and like you say, not overdo with too many shows and too hard pressure on them. Hope that then they last a few years more in the sport, and you can really, if you have a good one, you want to have this as long as possible. Yes, of course.
We talked about that, about doing your homework. What do you believe is your secret weapon? What is the thing that you try to do that you think others maybe don't?
Try to be organized in the way of setting up the people around me and how we work the horses, and like do the things as good as you can. Good management, I think, is very important to be good in this sport, yes.
You mentioned the big prize money, of course. We're here for the Longines Global Champions Tour. In your career, the sport has changed a lot, and the Longines Global Champions Tour itself has transformed the sport in the last few years. How much do you wish that had happened earlier?
Of course, it would have been nice, but at least I be a part of it now, that I can join it now. And like you say, this time when I started, we were riding for small money. Today we can live from also from the sport, and we are really grateful that we have these good sponsors and that bring the whole equestrian sport forward in these times.
You've been second in the overall series before now. You've gone achingly close to winning the championship series. You've had wins in Monaco and Hamburg. Which would be the one that you'd really like to grasp? Which is the one in the series that you think, I'd like to take home that trophy?
I live in Hamburg. I have my horses now. Casal Ask is coming from there. The British Association are from that area, and there's a bit of the home show for me, and the crowd and everything. They really share for the home riders there. So that is one of my favorites, and I managed to win it once in Hamburg. That was really nice.
And outside of the Longines Global Champions Tour, of course, when you go back to your native Sweden, you're a big star back in Sweden. The shows like Gothenburg and so forth. How much of a lift does that give you when you get that home crowd?
You have to live with that pressure. They also expect that you are doing very well when you come and they see you. But it makes you happy, you feel good, and then you want to do even better. And just try to don't overdo it when you have a good support from your supporters and your sponsors there.
Well, you've had an amazing career, Rolf. Thank you very much for joining us here in Antwerp. We wish you the very best for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much.